This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com with daily wrestling news update. The last one I will do from Canada for a while because I'm heading off to LA later this morning to cover the big PCW Ultra event on Friday, their anniversary event, as well as do some shoot interviews. But I was listening to Eric Bischoff's podcast today, and he mentioned that former WCW announcer Stagger Lee Marchall, who also commentated for other companies, was the voice of Tony the Tiger, the Frosted Flakes, their great voice. So I guess it was part of his Frosted Flakes contract that he could not publicly say it, but he's dead now. He passed away when he was 67 due to cancer, and it is out publicly. I did look it up. He was the voice of Tony the Tiger, so I thought that was very interesting. According to the Wrestling Observer Radio, AJ Styles says he's going to retire when his current WWE contract is up. He's not going to wrestle anywhere else. I guess at this point in his life, he's made all of his money and his body is starting to wear down. So when he's done, he's done. They also had some news in the Wrestling Observer Radio about the fallout of New Japan's big Wrestle Kingdom shows over the weekends. They didn't announce any big U.S. dates for 2020, now saying that they're supposed to do 27 shows in the U.S. in 2020, but not like announcing any major shows yet is a little strange. It was also strange that night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom that featured Chris Jericho's match and Jushin Liger's retirement match actually had approximately 10,000 less fans than night 1 had without Jericho. So that is interesting. They didn't announce if they're going to do 1 or 2 Tokyo Dome shows next January or not. Dave Meltzer feels that WWE will start coming to Japan more regularly eventually, and that New Japan going to the US could be a financial risk for them. They can draw more fans in the US than Ring of Honor or Impact, which both of those companies, I think Ring of Honor is drawing better than Impact. Impact is drawing really pitiful. But New Japan can actually draw more in the US, but they have no TV at this point. So WWE is number 1, AEW is number 2, and then there's not really a clear number 3 at this point. According to Sun Media here in Canada, Bret Hart's daughter, Alexandra Hart, opened a Heart Healthy Food restaurant in the Calgary area back in October, but it was short-lived, and right now I guess they closed December 20th, right around Christmas time, without paying many of their staff. And the story is basically the staff is upset. They're owed money for the hours and time they put in worked, and it appears that they really didn't have the financial backing to open this restaurant to begin with. So sorry to hear that. That's unfortunate. It's come out Brock Lesnar is going to be number 1 in the Royal Rumble this year. I guess now, back when I used to watch WWE, you didn't get to pick your number, but now I guess you can just pick, you want to be number 1 if you want. Now, Brock Lesnar is the WWE champion. However, he would not be the first current champion to win a Royal Rumble, as Hulk Hogan won a Royal Rumble when he was WWE champion as well. Anthony Shabbatz asked me if I watched Raw. No. MC says Jericho press conference after his match was epic. I'll have to take a look. Patrick J says Great North Wrestling February 29th. Yes. Haku, Barbarian, Too Cold Scorpio are going to be there. Lufisto, great card, February 9th. The HannibalTV.com has a lot more details. The Memphis AEW show, apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, the least tickets ever for an AEW show have been sold so far for the Memphis show. In a funny note, anyone that watched Raw, they had the same wedding officiant that was the wedding officiant for I guess they did another marriage of Lashley and Lana on this past Monday's Raw. And I guess there was some confusion, and the wedding officiant was actually stopped by security. The first time he tried to go in the ring, there was some miscommunication. They weren't alerted that he was actually working for WWE, and he was stopped and almost thrown out of the building. And I guess some of this was shown on camera. So that's kind of funny. He didn't get quite a beating like the Bret Hart attacker got, because, of course, he was going into the ring when there was no one in there. But that was a funny mishap. I did watch some of the clips of it on YouTube. Eric Bischoff also said on his podcast that NXT and AEW are kind of competing for who can decline in viewership the least at this point. Someone asked me, someone on here had a good question, and he always tips me. Krilling asked me about the Iron Sheik. I'm going to find out more information. But first of all, the Megan boys, who are two twins from the Toronto area, run his Twitter. At one point, they were also running Virgil's Twitter. So from my understanding, it's them running his Twitter. The last thing I could find where the Iron Sheik was in the news was he wanted to try and get some involvement in the Hulk Hogan biopic that's being developed for Netflix. He was trying to either be a consultant or have a role in the movie. That's the last that there seems to have been any news about him. When I asked Nikolai Volkov about the Iron Sheik in a clip that's on here, shortly before Volkov died, Volkov said he was feeling great, and he said that the Iron Sheik wasn't doing well and probably didn't have much time left. So it's ironic that Nikolai Volkov, who was vegan and continuously training and lived a healthy lifestyle, actually passed away before the Iron Sheik. My Juventud Guerrera full career interview is posted for all of your enjoyment. And I am on Twitter at Devon Hannibal. I haven't really mastered Twitter, but somehow someone involved me in some type of tweet on there where it showed a guy getting choked out by I believe she was a higher ranking belt female. And I guess he didn't tap, so he got choked right out. And I commented that I admire him for not tapping. And then I had a bunch of haters hating on me for saying that. Like, it's so awful if you actually have a never say die attitude and don't tap. Like, to me, I mean, that shows that you have a lot of heart. Obviously, in some cases, if you're just screwing around, doing light grappling with some friends or training for a fight, you don't want to get injured before a fight. Yeah, sure, tap. But for everyone hating on me for not tapping, you know what? Every situation is different, but I remember a specific grappling match that I had back. I even remember that it was back in 2014. And I was I am not, honestly, I'm an amateur wrestler more than I am a grappler. But whatever, the one where you're caught in between the guy's legs and your arm is across your face. And I almost passed out when I was in that. At one point, I was actually seeing the dots. But the guy was squeezing as tight as he could, and he actually tired himself out and actually let up on the choke, and I was able to get out, and he was so tired from trying to choke me out. I was able to tap him out with, I think it was an Americana armbar shortly after, all because on that particular day, I didn't feel like tapping. So I thought that was the one interesting thing about that. I'll let you guys know how close I was to passing out. When I escaped that move, my mouth like made the weirdest sound ever. It was like my lungs were fighting for air, and it was like suddenly my lungs filled up. It was a really cool sound actually, but it was like at that moment it was like boom, my lungs filled up, and I was able to finish the guy. So if you want to tap. If you don't want to tap, sometimes it's fun to push your limits. I originally had one coach who always believed like for a choke, it was not that big of a deal to like pass out if it's for fun and the guy's going to let go and you're going to be woken up after. I mean, when I was doing that, I was more in my early 20s than mid 30s. But anyways, different philosophies. For all those people mad at me, give me a break. It's your opinion if you want to tap or not. That's a personal choice. I'll answer some of your questions. Ryan Armstrong says Brock is overrated. I don't know. I would say he is the best wrestler today, in my opinion, by far. Lobo Zozo, am I going to watch the Royal Rumble? No. Have you or will you do an interview with the Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant? Patrick Rowe is asking. I would like to, yes. Has the Iron Sheik died? No. Patrick J says, I saw those tweets. Haters are snowflake. I mean, I just think that's ridiculous. Michigan Dipper, a gurgling sound. Yeah, it was kind of a gurgling sound. But I mean, that's just competitive, and like, it is good to be competitive, or you'll never push yourself. If you don't know, for instance, like how far you can go without passing out, you'll never know. Maybe if you panic, you'll feel like you have to tap out in like 20 seconds. But if you actually realize you can go a lot longer and you can relax and not panic and stay calm in those situations, you can probably find you'll last a lot longer. That's my opinion. But again, I'm an amateur wrestler. I don't have any belt. I never want any belt. I know that, yes, if I'm going to, I don't ever claim I'm the greatest fighter. If I'm going to face a higher belt guy, he's probably in general going to be better. But I think it's all about how much fight you have in you rather than what belts you are. I've seen some high belts that just do martial arts for fun and aren't aggressive people and actually are afraid of confrontation. So don't be, and someone actually commented in that thread, oh, they should have tapped out right after they saw the belt. What kind of a pussy does that? I mean, you gotta, first of all, it's supposed to be about fun. But second of all, you have to challenge yourself. And then also, in my opinion, you have to fight people better than you to get better. So you may as well try and face the best person in the room. That was always what I would do. Anyways, last question. What's my opinion of having Paul as Brock's mouthpiece? Good. It's obviously working. He's a multi-millionaire. It's interesting. When I was looking up WWE ticket prices, I noticed that there is a Raw taping in Winnipeg, I believe in February. Now, Brock Lesnar is living very close to Winnipeg. He's a Winnipeg Jets fan. He's been to some games. There's videos of him. When he was fighting in UFC before the controversy of his last fight and his suspension. They were even making T-shirts of Brock as if he was a representative of Canada. So I suspect that Brock Lesnar will get a baby face reception in Winnipeg. And I remember even before he was on TV, they even brought him to some Winnipeg house, or to at least one Winnipeg house show. I remember reading in the results. So they've been watching Brock Lesnar in Winnipeg for a long time. So yeah. Someone says, always been a fan of Paul Heyman. The guy knows how to talk. Yes, he is definitely a great storyteller. That's why he's been so successful. Have a good night, everybody. See you from LA.